photograph, would you agree?
Porch light.
And that's the front door of Mr.
Yes.
Redwine's house. And that's the only entrance on that side of the house.
Yes.
And it's got a porch light above it. That's the porch light that we're talking about.
Yes, you can see the porch light.
And there was nothing obstructing your view of that porch light?
No, not really. But you have to understand, it's incredibly dark up there.
Understood. And given that folks are sort of neighborly up there, you were aware that Mr. Redwine was working in the oil fields and as an over-the-road trucker. Is that fair?
I just understood he was a trucker, you know.
So it made sense, and you understood about your neighborhood, that the neighbor who lived to the south of you was someone who would be away for periods of time.
Yes.
And you never became aware that his lights were on a timer, right?
I never became aware of...
His lights were not on a timer as far as you know, correct?
No, I mean, when he was there, they would be on. I didn't look at it out of habit in time every time his light was on, no. You
sure.
know, yes, it was just that it was noticeable this time because he had been gone for a very long time, and it's so dark. And when I looked out, I was like, oh, you know.
So we know at a minimum that he was home with his child on Labor Day. Are you saying that he was out of town longer than that? When you say a really long time, are you talking about a few days, a few weeks?
I can't tell you how long he was gone, just that it was a long time.
Sure. And given that it was so dark out there, when he was home and would turn the light on, it would really stand out, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it had been some time that he was away, so when he was there and had a guest, the light would be on, right?
Yes.
And you didn't observe any other lights on, just that outside light,
yes,
correct?
Just that one porch light.
Do you recall, and I know it's been some time, but do you recall that Mr. Redwine stacked wood on his front porch?
I'm sure he did. A lot of people do that up there, but it wasn't, the only thing that I remember definitely was that he would have a grill sometimes on this side. But I don't, you know, recall, but he could have.
Ms. Cochrane, you did not see Dylan Redwine at the house on November 19th, right?
No.
And how long prior to the 19th was it that you had seen Dylan at the house?
You know, quite a long time. I can't give you definite. It's sketchy.
Sure. I understand that, and that makes
yeah.
a lot of sense.
Thank you.
Was the first time you remember being interviewed by an investigator in this case after the 1-year anniversary of Dylan's disappearance?
Was that the first time I remember being questioned? Is that what you're saying?
By an investigator. I think that they did a door-to-door canvas, but do you remember that the more in-depth one occurred on the 1-year anniversary?
I really don't. I don't remember, but I do remember being talked to twice. But don't ask me dates.
Okay. Do you recall that the second interview came some time after
Yes.
After there had been police vehicles outside of Mr. Redwine's house?
Now, are you talking about 10 days after or much later?
However often you saw law enforcement.
Say 10 days after, yes, I saw a lot of police people.
Okay. And then did you see law enforcement outside the house anytime thereafter before you were interviewed by the investigator?
No, but I'm not somebody who's always looking out the window. They could have been there, and I missed them completely. They were there and gone, and I didn't see them.
Okay. Do you remember that there had been a nationally televised program about this case in the interim before you spoke to the investigator?
Objection, Judge. We're way beyond the scope, and I think we're treading into some dangerous waters here.
What's the point of this, Mr. Bryan?
Permission to approach.
Sure. Go ahead, Ms. Rand.
Do you recall that there had been a protest outside Mr. Redwine's house?
Yes.
And do you recall that the investigator came to speak with you after the protest?
I actually don't.
Okay.
I don't.
Do you recall that sometime around the protest and that winter that you became reacquainted and closer with Elaine Hall?
I spoke to her just in saying I'm sorry, but I wouldn't say that we reconnected and, you know, we're very close, but yes.
Okay. Were you asked to keep an eye on the house?
No.
Mr. Redwine's house?
No.
Okay.
Not that I remember. Please don't.
On that occasion, is it a fair understanding on the
occasion, please?
just about to go there? On the evening of November, or I'm sorry, the early morning of November 19th, did you see Mr. Redwine driving up and down out of his driveway? Did you observe any vehicle traffic?
No, I wasn't paying attention that way.
With as dark as it is up there, vehicles are sort of noticeable, especially around 2 in the morning, right?
Well, yeah, but I did not see a vehicle. Only the porch light.
And didn't see any movement or activity out in that front yard that was illuminated with the porch light?
And if you're talking about an observation in that way, at any other time, it wouldn't be detailed. I could see figures moving, but it was never very much. But at that particular day, no, just the porch light.
Mr. Redwine parked his vehicles in his driveway, right?
For the most part, yes. Yes.
And the street is so narrow, you would not park vehicles on County Road 500 near your house. Is that right?
On the street, like in front, maybe temporarily, but yeah, the shoulders were so that it would be difficult. Maybe temporarily somebody might.
You mentioned to investigator, well, I'll withdraw that. I think that's it. Thank you. I appreciate your patience, ma'am.
Okay.
Mr. Champagne?
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. You mentioned that, let's see, defense counsel asked you when the last time you saw Dylan Redwine at Mark Redwine's house, and you said you weren't sure.
I am not.
And that's fine.
Because it was just visits, you know.
Well, tell us about how you know Dylan Redwine.
I was doing some front yard work and moving some dirt and putting it through a strainer and taking the time to pick out the earthworms because I was going to put them in the garden soil in the bed. And this little kid zooms up on his bike and just gets off and comes over and squats down, didn't say a word. I just said, hi. He probably said, hi. And then I said, I'm picking out the earthworms, and we just picked out earthworms in the dirt. So, and then he just disappeared. He was like a little phantom. He would come and go.
Was that the first time you met him?
Yes.
Did you have other encounters with him over the years?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
One day it was raining, and I had made some lime pops, and I just said, you want a lime pop? Yeah, and I set him up on my computer, and he played Bejeweled, and I saw his bike in my backyard one day and saw that he was in the pen with my two dogs. He was in the dog bed, and they were all over him, licking him. And he brought over some friend's little dachshund because he wanted me to see this little dog one day. He didn't speak much. But...
Did he actually come inside your house?
Oh, yes.
How many times?
Your Honor,
Hold on, please.
for a moment, but we're going to let it go, but this is beyond the scope at this point.
It is beyond the scope, Mr. Champagne, and that's, you can tell me why it should continue.
Your Honor, defense counsel went well beyond the scope when they were asking questions about the last time.
You did not object, so I didn't do anything.
Right.
Maybe you wanted it in.
Yes.
I don't want it in now, and it's beyond the scope, so why should I let it go forward?
Well, I'm trying to establish her knowledge level and understanding, but I'll move on. That's fine, Judge. One final question on the topic.
No, not on that topic. It's
Okay.
beyond the scope.
Fine. Thank you, Judge. You said defense counsel was asking you questions about when you were interviewed by law enforcement in the case and inferring that it was a year after November 18th. Does that sound correct to you?
Yes, I remember being interviewed pretty much right after, and then a long period had passed. If it was a year, I don't know. I'm one of those people that doesn't keep up with dates or time, so I just know there was a large gap.
Do you remember the name of the investigator that interviewed you?
Tanya Goldbright.
And you said that, and correct me if I'm wrong, you said it was actually fairly close in time to Dylan's disappearance?
I'm sorry, it was actually, the first time. Yes, it was close after the disappearance, yes.
Okay. And do you remember the date?
No, I do not.
If I showed you a copy of her report, would that perhaps refresh your recollection?
Yes.
This is page 59 of Discovery. Awesome.
Thank you.
After you finish reading
yes, that sounds about right.
What is your recollection?
Of her questioning me?
About the date.
About the date. The date that she came and questioned me?
Yes.
Just that, she came inside, told me who she was, and then I invited her in, and she just asked me questions.
Do you remember when that occurred? What day, what month, roughly?
No, probably about the 24th.
Of which month?
November.
November.
Yes.
So within a couple of weeks after Dylan's disappearance.
Within, yes. I'm sorry to not be more definite. It does just a long time ago.
And then you were interviewed again later.
Yes.
So you were interviewed more than once.
Yes.
You were asked questions about whether you recall a wood stack out in front of Mark Redwine's house.
Yes.
You described that you don't recall a wood stack per se, but he did have items on his front porch.
Yes.
Did any of those items ever obstruct your view of his nightlight or his porch light?
Oh, not the light, no, because the light was high. I'm talking about something waist high.
Thank you. One moment, please. Permission to approach the witness with exhibit number 27.
Yes.
And do you recognize that picture?
Yes.
And is it a fair and accurate representation of the perspective from your bedroom window to Mark Redwine's house?
Yes.
Move to admit People's 27.
Mr. Moran? Admitted.
Move to publish, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Be about what I saw when I looked down my window. There's the door, there's the light.
If I were to ask you to point to where the light is on that photograph with this pointer, would you be able to do that?
Oh.
Okay, they said this People's Exhibit number 27. So hold on, let me see if I can find this real quick. People's 27. So his house is over here to the left. You see the up there in the top, that big snow pile? His house is right down here. So I guess this is at her home looking out to where she could see that porch light. Okay, just wanted to show you guys what they were looking at.
Okay, get up. Okay, get up. But it's right there. It's like the shadow of it, because it was right by the door.
And you're pointing to a spot that's on the left half of the picture, right about...
Coming out of the door, the porch light is going to be here on the right.
Thank you. Have a seat. That's Defense Exhibit 1139. And is that the picture that you described as deceptive as far as your...
because I know his house is through there, but you would have to be down there on that side. That's not what I saw from my house.
So the picture 1139 that defense counsel introduced...
Yeah, and remember, there is a lot of aspens. There's even a whole grove back here. There were a lot of aspens across the field, but they were kind of back from the road.
But Defense Exhibit number 1139, that is not an accurate description of your perspective.
Yeah, no, I would have to go down there and go to the side where his house was in order to be obstructed by these trees.
Okay. But Exhibit number 27, People's Exhibit 27, is that fair and accurate from your viewpoint?
Is it this right here? Yes, that would be more like it.
And all this is to say, could you see his light on November 18th?
Oh, yes, definitely.
No further questions.
Any other questions from the jury? Bring it up, Cindy. Mr. Moran, you want to come up? Mr. Champagne? Thank you, Judge.
Okay, bear with me just a moment. All right, guys, up next we have, I believe, Carrie Redwine, which is Dylan's brother, and I kind of want to keep him all together. You know, it's a very important testimony because Carrie was there when Dylan saw those photos. Carrie knows Mark inside and out. That's his dad. He had already decided he did not want to go and see his father anymore. And unfortunately, Dylan didn't have that choice because he was an underage minor. So I do want to keep that together. I want to apologize for the health of the stream. I'm not quite sure what's going on. I live in an area where it's kind of hit or miss. If I go out into the driveway, then I don't even have service. So it's kind of strange. So I apologize for that. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. You know, this is about Dylan. He needs to have his story told. I know this is years later, but we can learn so much from these cases. Dylan was missing for like 7 months before any remains were found. We have some little ones right now that went missing, you know, a couple years ago and coming up on 2 years. And so there is hope that, you know, at some point we can, you know, find something of these kids. I know how awful that sounds, but something is better than nothing for these parents. So if you've made it with me this far, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be here with me on Facing Reality. It's me, January. You'll see me down there in the chat. I have a personal page and this page as well. So be sure to subscribe to both. If you haven't liked the stream, please do so already. I'll let you guys go. Have a wonderful rest of your day or your evening, and we will come back tomorrow and watch Carrie Redwine, Dylan's brother, take the stand. I will throw in some evening time live so that those of you that cannot make it during the day can catch them in the evening time, but you can always catch the replay. There is a playlist on my channel labeled Dylan Redwine. So thank you guys again so much for